All right, let's jump right in. Today in this explainer, we're unpacking one of the Middle East's most complex and honestly deeply influential nations, Iran. To really get what's behind the global headlines, we've got to cut through the noise and look at the actual structural mechanics of how this country operates from the inside out. We're going to explore its history, its military, its economy, and its global influence. Which brings us to the big question. Why is Iran considered one of the Middle East's most influential countries? What is actually driving that immense sway in the region? Well, true understanding requires looking way past the 24-hour news cycle. The reality is that Iran's power is rooted in a highly specific mix of deep ancient history, unyielding geography, and formidable military mechanics. Here's our roadmap for today to break it all down. 1. Roots of modern Iran. 2. Military and regional power. 3. Economic drivers and pressures. And 4. Global influence and future. So let's kick things off with Section 1, Roots of Modern Iran. You literally cannot understand modern Iran without feeling the sheer weight of its past. We're talking about ancient Persia here, one of the earliest, most foundational civilizations in human history. That deep identity completely shapes their modern worldview. Then fast forward to the 20th century, a time of major political changes and intense foreign interventions, which ultimately boiled over into the 1979 Islamic Revolution. That single pivotal event completely shattered the old monarchy and restructured the nation's entire identity into what exists today. And what they built out of that revolution is a highly unique hybrid political system. It's essentially a balancing act, elected institutions on one side versus religious leadership on the other. You have democratic processes, sure, but they operate entirely under an overarching religious authority. Grasping the friction between these two centers is absolutely crucial if you want to know how decisions are actually made and how their internal politics play out. All right, moving right along to Section 2, Military and Regional Power. Now, just like that political setup we just talked about, their defense apparatus also has two distinct pillars. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, is a completely distinct military branch operating right alongside the regular armed forces. You might be wondering, why two separate branches? Well, the regular military is traditionally tasked with protecting the physical borders, but the IRGC was literally built to protect the revolutionary political system itself. This dual approach gives them incredible flexibility. To actually project that regional power, Iran focuses heavily on strategic military investments. They don't try to match global superpowers dollar for dollar. Instead, it's all about asymmetrical warfare. We're talking a massive ballistic missile arsenal, advanced drone programs, nimble naval forces, and robust air defense. It's highly cost-effective, high-impact tech that gives them massive deterrence, and that's exactly what cements their status as a formidable regional force. Okay, let's switch gears and look inward with Section 3, Economic Drivers and Pressures. This is where we see a really intense ongoing tension. On one hand, you have key industries driven by immense natural wealth, oil, natural gas, robust manufacturing, agriculture, mining, and services. But on the exact opposite side, you have the immense shock of sanction impacts. Decades of severe international sanctions have acted like a chokehold. They heavily constrict trade and foreign investment and absolutely hammer currency stability. It is a constant grinding tug-of-war between profound potential and external economic strangulation. Because beyond those macroeconomic sanctions, everyday economic pressures and inflation heavily shape the country's future. When currency stability falters and basic goods become prohibitively expensive, it completely erodes purchasing power for the average citizen. These aren't just abstract numbers on a balance sheet, right? They are immediate, daily realities that breed domestic frustration. How the state manages this resilience is arguably the single most critical factor for its long-term stability. Let's zoom all the way out now for Section 4, Global Influence and Future. So how does Iran project itself on the broader stage? It relies on a highly sophisticated mix of tools for regional influence. And this goes way beyond traditional military might. We're talking deep-rooted diplomacy, complex security policies, and carefully cultivated relationships with both neighboring countries and key global powers. They've embedded themselves so deeply into the geopolitical fabric that pretty much no major Middle Eastern development happens without their calculus being factored in. But, and this is a big but, maintaining that footing means constantly navigating some massive key future challenges. The obstacles just compound on one another. You've got intense internal economic pressures, heavy sanctions, and crippling inflation. Add in severe environmental issues like water scarcity sweeping the region, plus a constant simmer of regional tensions. You're looking at a state that literally has to adapt every single day just to keep its balance. It really all comes back to this one core takeaway. Understanding Iran requires considering its long history, strategic geography, natural resources, political system, and international relationships. You just can't view any of these gears in isolation. You can't understand their international relationships without understanding their religious governance. And you definitely can't look at their natural resources without considering their strategic geography. It's all connected. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. As regional tensions and economic pressures evolve, how will Iran's long history and strategic geography shape its future? That is absolutely the definitive question to keep at the forefront of your mind as you continue following this region's incredibly complex story. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.